On this week's episode, why we decided to get into TV news, including Robert's misunderstanding of the business. Looney Tunes loses the ammunition during its newest cartoon campaign, and a woman and her dog get stuck in a sewer. And another addition to the list of the literal worst.
All right, and thank you for joining us. Another episode of Anchors Away. I am Robert Burns, along with Norma Holland, who you heard at the very beginning of the show. Both of us, in case you've never listened or know who we are, both of us former TV news anchors who walked away so we could have a life and have now decided to start a podcast. So, speaking of which, you can subscribe for free on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen. Without further ado, because most of our listeners like you more than they like me, here's Norma Holland.
Well, hello, Robert. Wonderful to talk to you again, friend.
Well, hello.
It's been a week.
As they say in Seinfeld. It's been a weird week. I feel like every week something completely different happens in the world, and we're nowhere near where we were 7 days ago.
No, and I'm trying to make heads or tails of it. I think like a lot of people were just like, wait a minute, what just happened? What was that? You know?
Yeah.
And then you're like, Corona what?
We're not doing coronavirus anymore. Murder hornets lasted an hour and a half.
Murder hornets are from like, that was like a whole 2 weeks ago. Now it's like Corona what? Which is totally terrible. Clearly, coronavirus, we're still in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. It just feels like we've been talking about a whole lot of other things, and we kind of talked about that last week, and talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and how it's taken over. It has taken over cities. It has taken over social media. It has taken over corporate America. Robert, have you noticed the number of businesses, organizations that have come out with a statement in support of Black Lives Matter?
I've gotten so many emails from places that I didn't think I would need this particular email from about. I've gotten it from Under Armour. I bought a pair of shorts last week, and now I'm getting a Black Lives Matter email from them. I'm getting emails from everyone, and I feel like a lot of them are making sure that their stance on the public situation is known, just so you don't, not out of sight, out of mind type thing. But I have gotten and probably gone through, I want to say, a good dozen of them.
Yeah.
That I wasn't expecting, like I said, from companies I did not expect. And so everything kind of changes within the way the wind blows. But for our listeners out there, this isn't, we're going to touch on, current events and what's going on, and as we do. But it's also a lighter version of the side of us. These aren't going to be necessarily breaking news shows that we have here. It's going to be a lot of, Norma, what the hell did you do last week? It's been 7 days. Have you done anything worth talking about?
Oh my goodness. No, Robert,
No?
I am exactly in the same spot as I was 7 days ago.
Still
Time
trying to
moves
fix.
so much more slowly when you're not chasing news, right?
And you're chasing
I'm chasing
kids.
two little kids. I'm chasing kids. Like, I have two little girls. They're 2 and 4, and they are, all over. They're all over me, and they're our life right now, right? My husband and I are just busy. We're like in it. And so sometimes I have to stop and remind myself, oh, wait a minute. You're the same person who decided when she was 20 that you were going to become a journalist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still remember all those years ago what I felt like when I got into television for the first time. And we were talking about this, Robert and I were kind of like, oh, why'd you get in the biz in the first place?
Yeah,
right?
that's also what we call in the industry a transition, ladies and gentlemen. As we go into our lead story of the week, why we decided to get into the news business. And I feel like, I love you, Norma. I feel like you got into this business for a much nobler cause than why I got into the business. We'll touch on this. I'll share the story because this is where just about anything goes. You are a much better person than I am. We'll just put it out there.
No, I think we are two sides of the same coin, Robert. And I'll add to that. I'll explain. I got into television when I was a wee 20 years old. I'll never forget. I was 20 years old and I was a junior at SUNY Geneseo and I wanted to be a journalist, right? So I'd grown up thinking I was going to be a doctor, right? My mother used to call me to dinner, paging Dr. Holland, paging I mean, just, she was being funny. Well, then I got into to college and I was like, no, I really want to be a journalist. I love writing. I was into current events. I'd done speech and debate in high school. Okay. I was a speech and debate kid.
So you always win the
And proud
arguments
of
at
it.
home, I take it?
Say what?
You always win the arguments and debates at home?
Yeah, I was pretty good. I wasn't a debater. I was more of an orator.
Okay.
So I used to write speeches and win, and I was very good. I'm gonna say I was very good. I won a lot, and people would come up to me and say, "You should be a journalist. You've got, really good. You're just, seem very composed for a 17-year-old." And what did I know? Well, little did I know what I was getting into. So, yeah, I got into journalism at the age of 20. I started off working weekends, and truly, my desire was, I think like a lot of young journalists, I wanted to come, into the business and tell stories. I wanted to tell really important stories. I wanted to like blow the lid off of injustices and right wrongs. And there was this noble, like you said, like this noble side of me. And I was sort of sideswiped by the whole image part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I said, well, I watched women on TV and men, and I thought you wear a business suit, you comb your hair, you wear a little lipstick, and you're good. Oh,
Mm-mm.
Once those consultants get a hold of you, you're wearing winged eyeliner and you're doing cut creases in your eyeshadow and you're wearing bronzer and blush. And
Things
I was
make
like,
a
what?
difference you never thought of.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole side of the business. And I'll never forget. I will never forget. I was on a live shot and my hair, because I have a, sort of unruly curly hair. And it was just blowing in the wind, right? It was like a cyclone and my hair was just like whoosh, whoosh, all over my face. And my boss kept bringing it up and he's like, you really need to, you did a great job, but you really do need to control your hair when you're on your live shots. And he's like, and I'm like, yeah, but back to the live shot. What did you think of like my delivery? Did you understand me? He's like, listen, I need you to work on the hair. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Why does it matter? Why don't my words matter more than my appearance? And I'll never forget his words to me. He said, if you want to have a future in this business, you better start caring about your hair.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Stunned.
but here's
You
because here's a
better
little tip.
start caring. I was
For
like, what?
for a lot of people out there who don't know what the boss's office looks like in a newsroom, it is an office. It's tucked away to whatever side of it is. The door is usually closed, and there are about 9 TVs in there, and they're all on mute. So he's probably not listening to the words you were saying, but he sees your hair, and that is distracting for him. So that's how, just
Yeah.
for context for everyone out there, he wasn't probably paying attention. As long as you're not getting us sued, they just want
Yeah.
to make sure your hair is okay.
Well, and and truly, I did come from a newsroom that was extremely interested in what journalists were saying. I mean, I mean, I had excellent award-winning journalists working around me who were so good at their craft, right? And I would study that. And yeah, I looked at their hair, or whatever, but it wasn't my focus. And again,
Mhm.
I'm coming at this from totally different point of view. And my boss is like, yeah, but you got to have your hair under control. And I was like stunned. I was so offended. How could you? What do you mean? Doesn't what I say carry any weight? He's like, you better start caring about your hair. I was like, what? Over time, I understood what he was saying. If your hair is a mess and it's completely distracting, it was just like when I did speech and debate. Judges,
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
judged. Judges would tell me, like, don't stand with your hands that way. Make sure that you don't, wear too. I'll never forget a judge told me my earrings were too jingly jangly. They were like, you need to have them, not so dangly because it's distracting. Right. So you didn't want to appear distracting. But I think my thinking was, I'm on the side of an expressway and there is like a car crash. There's someone dead,
Mhm.
30, 40 feet
Right.
behind me. Why does it matter what my hair looks like? Long story short, there was a couple things that I just sort of didn't understand about the biz. No regrets at all, but it was just sort of like that first like reality, like, oh yeah. By the way, this is television journalism, so you have to think about what you look like, and then you can go and save the world, right?
And yeah,
Look
and
cute, but
a
look
lot of it
cute,
is
and then you can go
entertainment
save the
value.
world. Yeah,
A lot of it has to do with get people to watch and stay watching a little bit, so they're not distracted by, again, the pattern of your shirt, the earrings, the lipstick. You don't
right.
look
It
like
makes
you just
sense.
left the bar. I get it.
Right.
you're right, though, in that respect, where the majority of times your words and what you say and how you're reporting usually are what people want to know. And that's what
But
they're
allow
listening to.
me to say one thing, Robert, and then I'm going to get off my soapbox and I'm going to let you tell the people, okay, your story, because I can't wait. The truth is this: women in television will always be judged more harshly than men in journalism. Okay. It's the truth. It is God's truth. Now, not to say that men don't struggle with their appearance, because I know we're going to touch on that eventually at some point. Okay. Because you're giving me that look.
I've
Give
got a
me that
soapbox
Robert.
on that one.
Give me that Robert Burns look. But I'm
Continue.
telling you. But okay.
It's accurate.
Okay.
No one's saying you're inaccurate. It's absolutely accurate because, as you mentioned, I think in a conversation earlier, there's always that thought of there's always someone prettier, younger, newer around the corner, and we'll touch on this more as we go along. But appearance is part of what helps people have longevity in the business. You know, you may not even be that. You may go on vacation and you're watching the news somewhere, and you're like, "Wow, this person's not that good, but they're good looking," and that's why they're there. And no one's going to debate that on you at all. And
The
so,
best is when it's both good looking and intelligent.
yes, if you can get that, you've got the jackpot and you've got job security for a very long time. Me, on the other hand, where to begin? So you started where? In college? That's where you started your story? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to go back a little bit more. So in high school, I graduated. Not well, but I graduated. I got a piece of paper and I decided to go to college. Well, I went to community college, didn't know what I wanted to do. And eventually I messed around, lost about a year and a half, just kind of taking your general ed classes. And I went home and I believe it was my mom, going to give her credit for this. Mom said, "Hey, you know what? You like sports. You're kind of outgoing." I was socially awkward, but I was outgoing. And so why don't you look into doing sports, like being a play-by-play or a color analyst or something like that? I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, which is no longer a thing, and eventually got my associates there, went to another private university, Lynn University in Boca Raton. So I grew up in South Florida and got my degree there. Now, I mentioned I was socially awkward for a reason, okay? I didn't have a lot of girlfriends when I was younger. Didn't have a lot of interest,
Aw.
really. I was short, I was chubby, and I wasn't really that conversational. However, that started to change a little bit in college. I discovered a little bit more of myself and made up for lost time. So when it came time to graduate, I was looking into, TV, and I sat down. I remember we had a class, and I kind of took to it like a fish took to water. The personality kind of shone. I was able to read, not that well, but I kind of knew where I was going. So I did an internship over at the NBC affiliate in Miami, WTVJ. Great people there, still dear friends with a lot of them, and got a little bit more of the real taste of what news was. But in my mind, I looked at the cameras. I looked at Miami. I looked at the lights. I know how much some of them made. And I said, I want to keep doing this because I can make a lot of money and I can get a lot of chicks and they're going to love this. Little did I know that the first job I had was going to be in Lafayette, Louisiana, which made zero money and no women because nobody cared about the local news reporter. It was a big
Really?
eye-opener for me. Nobody cared. It was once I realized that when you're on a TV reporter and a lot of local, they're like, "Oh, you're just this guy." You talk about a lot of this stuff, like city council meetings and stuff like that. Not sexy stories when you're in a very, very small market like that.
Interesting. I would
And
have thought there'd been more interest in you because you were a quasi celebrity.
well, not really. There's 3 TV stations there. However, again, you're covering, they're putting up a street light or a roundabout. That was your story of the day. I know. Look at your face. You're like, oh, this sucked. And it did. It was horrible. And so I got that harsh realization. There's no money in it until you get to a certain point. But in my mind, because of where I was, I saw the glitz, the glamour, the deco drive, the celebrities going to Miami thinking that's how it was. Ain't nobody going to a movie premiere in Lafayette, Louisiana. Ain't nobody going to any of that stuff in
Nope.
Waco, Tech. No, it's not happening. So That was the reason behind going into it, was I thought I could get money and girls. And you know what I didn't get? Money or girls in
No
the
cash.
longevity
No
of the
chicks.
career. It really wasn't. I
Wait,
got to go to
how long were you in the biz?
12 years.
That's substantial.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at all what I made over 12 years, yeah, sure, it's great. But it took 12 years to make that kind of money when in my mind I was going into it, I'm going to make $200,000 or whatever. It didn't work out that way. Not at all. The best thing I got was a chance to work in some very pretty areas. In Fort Myers, in Naples, Florida, in San Diego. I worked near the water. It was very pretty. You got paid in sunshine dollars, but I got to work in those areas. And so that was the benefit to it. I met a lot of wonderful people, but the main motivator for a 20-something-year-old Robert got pushed to the side. And fortunately, I was able to stay in the business long enough. I was pretty good at it. And now, like I said in the beginning, we're working on having personal lives now. And that's where we are.
Okay, so you know that I have done some soft reconnaissance on you.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, I've discovered, or am I wrong, that there was a time when in the pursuit of said chicks, you was a dancer.
That was actually
I'm
before.
your private dancer.
So this was before TV, actually. So I was in college, my first couple of years getting that bachelor's degree, and I needed a job. And so I did like Patrick
Your
Swayze
hips
did.
don't lie.
Like Patrick Swayze did from Dirty Dancing. I went into an Arthur Murray dance studio, said, look, I don't know how to dance, but please teach me. I want to learn, and I want a paycheck that's part-time that I can still go to school. And they said, sure.
Rico.
So for 2 years, I taught and learned how to teach ballroom dance. I took that with me. And that was my bar trick. A lot of guys, have their things that they do, and mine was a little, you spin them around a little bit. I'll tell you what, though, living in Fort Myers and Naples, the older women loved me. I was a hot piece of ace.
Charmer.
Oh my God, let me tell you, if I was able to handle some of that, I would have been able to really clean up. Not my target audience, though. We're going with a different demographic here. I spun you. I had some fun, but it was not what I was going for.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I appreciate your candor. This is a show about kind of like, stripping the veneer off of what our career was, and just sort of being real about it. So, yeah, you wanted chicks and cash, and you got neither. But
I got a plane ticket, and
no, but look at what you've got now, Robert. Look at what you've got now.
I know.
Experience.
I have the experience points. I do.
You know what I'm saying?
Not nearly as much as you.
You are the most
an OG.
interesting man in the room. Say what?
I'm the only man in the room right now. It's you and I on a phone call.
The only man in the room.
That's it. Let's move on to what we are calling.
I turn into Norm sometimes. I turn into Norm, not Norm. I'm like,
Norm.
Are you afraid to go into your own basement or maybe that one room at work because it's full of old electronics that no one has any idea what to do with? Well, now there's a way you can turn that trash into something good. Reclaim your basement, garage, or that office at work by getting a hold of Sun King Recycling. They can work with you and your business to make sure that your old electronics are recycled correctly and any old data doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Plus, they started eScrap for Camp, where funds raised through recycling electronics are donated to help improve the quality of life for children, adults, and families whose lives have been touched by cancer. Check them out online at sunking.com, SUNNKING.com.
I cut you off, but that comes with live radio podcast. Anyway, this is what we call our B block, where we talk about just a quick little news story that we found out there. And I'm going to preface this with really the only way to go into this story. Did you hear that Looney Tunes is back?
Love it. I grew up watching it. Who didn't? Right?
We all did. I
this
love
is
it.
The stuff that we grew up watching.
I loved all this stuff. And so now HBO Max came out, and I already pay for HBO through our Apple TV. And so I pay for HBO, and I saw that Looney Tunes was coming back. And the first thing I made sure was they have the original Looney Tunes cartoons, Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, Tweety Bird, Sylvester, and they do. They go all the way back to the originals in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Which I started watching. It had the fox that looked like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
But I don't know the fox's name, but it was a 3-minute cartoon. But that was what people went to the movie theaters for back then.
Yeah.
And so I've watched some of those older episodes, but I've also watched some of the ones that we grew up with. You know, remember the old cackling witch? Wherever she would run, she'd leave some bobby pins in the air.
Yeah.
Loved it. And loved all of those. So HBO says Warner Brothers owns all those cartoons, so they have the series on HBO Max. It's great. Going forward, they're going to make new versions of the same cartoons. However, because of our global climate, the way it is, they are taking out the guns. Meaning, Elmer Fudd will no longer have his shotgun. Yosemite Sam is no longer the hootinest, tootinest, shootinest, bobtail wildcat in the West. I didn't remember that. I wrote it down.
I was going to say, that's really good recall.
That'd be pretty good. So they're taking away all of that, but they're leaving in the dynamite, the TNT. They're leaving in the anvils. And in a trailer for the new cartoons, Elmer Fudd's walking around with a pickaxe chasing around Bugs Bunny.
Okay, slow down. A pickaxe?
A pickaxe.
Okay. His clearly homicidal tendencies are still in effect, like present.
There's still mental health issues with all the Looney Tunes.
I was watching an episode with Yosemite Sam, and there's the one where if he's nice to Bugs, he gets I don't know how many, like $1 million, let's just say, right? Because he lost all of his money in the inheritance, so he's got to be nice to Bugs Bunny. And he's like, and every time he wants to swear, he runs out of the house and he yells up on a hill, you know, dag nabbit, and then he comes back and, hello, Bunny, what can I do for you? And I'm like, clearly this man has issues. Like there are some undiagnosed, undiscussed mental health issues. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know either. Like I want to see it. I'm still going to watch because it's got the same premise. They're still going to do a lot of the same jokes, but I think I'm more partial to the older ones. Not because of the guns, but because of what we know. It's what we're familiar with. And the newer ones, they're going to be fine. They're going to be cartooned or drawn the same way.
Yeah.
But I feel like, the reason I have this is so that I can have that nostalgic feeling. I can go on there and I can watch those, like I said, the Halloween one or the Abominable Snowman, where he captures Bugs Bunny. And those are the ones that I remember as a kid. And those are the ones I'm paying for to watch. But the new generation, I like, how's Yosemite Sam gonna shoot his guns and that lift him up in the air when he gets all hot and wild? It's not gonna happen.
So, I'll be honest with you. We have watched some of these episodes with our daughters because they're cartoons. And again, I think as parents, what we remember is not what is real. And so when our kids watch it, we might be horrified by what they're watching. There was a couple references that made me a little uncomfortable, and I kind of thought to my husband, are these for adults or are these for kids? I just kind of wonder. There was a couple episodes where Elmer Fudd, he did have the gun on him. I bristled a little bit, right? They have a version of Looney Tunes called Baby Looney Tunes.
I know of this.
And they're all babies, and of course, they're at Granny's house.
This isn't Tiny Toons, is it?
Yeah, Tiny, something like that.
Okay.
They're just like, they're babies. And the girls love that. Like that's like their level, at that level, right? Like they're all babies. The girls can totally relate. I don't know if I won't be watching Looney Tunes. I want the old, just like you said, because it's part of our youth, right? That's like our growing up. So I'm totally going to want to watch that. But I had this discussion with a friend of mine who's a pediatrician, and she's like, think about it. The movie The Goonies, right? You watched that when you were what, 10? 9 or 10 when it first came out. I know I'm older, relax. But like, I was a kid.
At least you've watched it. If you said you've never seen it, I would have had an issue.
Oh, me?
If you said you hadn't seen Goonies, then we'd have had something to talk about.
It's a classic, yeah. But think about it. I couldn't let my girls watch that.
No.
I couldn't let them watch that. But to me, I was like, such a great movie, and it was about, One-Eyed Willie, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, One-Eyed Willie? What are we talking? We can't let them watch this. This movie is totally not appropriate, but in our mind's eye, it's fine. It's kids stuff. We were kids when we watched
it's a
it.
kids
No
movie.
biggie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, Robert.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I think that,
Fair.
for us as kids, we look at it in the perspective of things. And we say, well, we get it. Like, and we're looking at it as adults, and we're fine. We understand it. And back then, you didn't think about it. It was 5 kids going on a treasure hunt. Or it was, Tweety Bird blowing up Sylvester the cat. And Sylvester always came back. And I think that was what, he always came back. They always bounced back at the end of it. And so I get it. Like Warner Brothers, I get it. I ain't got to like it. I'm probably not going to watch them. I'm going to stick to whatever stopped in the 90s and maybe Space Jam 2 out of curiosity. But other than that, the HBO subscription's worth it. I think it's great.
Is it going to make them money? Truly, right? Is a more sanitized version of this going to make them money? And the answer is, if it has broader appeal and it brings in the money, we good.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you don't run HBO and not know what you're doing and know that people want to see new Looney Tunes. And are the majority of people going to miss the guns or even notice they're gone? Probably not. If you cover it up and do a whole bunch of other things, there's still explosions. There's still yahoo hoo hooey as you fall off the cliff. There's still those type of things. So they know what they're doing. I'm sure they'll be fine. But I think there's going to be a segment of us who are going to notice this and realize, like, where the heck's the gun? Why isn't Elmer hunting at the anymore? Why isn't Yosemite shooting his gun? I thought he just shot him out of fun.
That's what I thought.
Make him dance. I didn't realize they had a purpose to them.
I certainly wasn't thinking about them killing anyone.
No.
No one smokes anymore in movies, right?
No.
I mean, if you do see someone smoking a cigarette, it's like, oh.
Remember the cartoon? The Looney Tunes used to do the smoking. They don't do that anymore. That stopped a while ago. You're right. So I guess
ones,
there's precedent to it. So we'll have to see, and I'd be curious to know what everybody else thinks on that. But as we move on with our show, the transitions continue.
Love this.
I don't know whether random radio, no, you're not getting, nobody's tuning in a radio anymore to get that noise. I don't know why I chose that for this show. We know of it, but nobody's sitting there with the dial trying to get it right in the middle.
The lost art, Robert.
No, it's too
such
much.
a lost art. There's things kids today will never do.
They'll never
do.
understand. But
so one of the things we like to talk about, we make fun of ourselves. This is a great thing about the show is we laugh at ourselves. So listen, people in television, they sound funny, and you can go ahead and say it. I say it. I'd like to think I never sounded funny in television.
Lies.
That I never had that TV voice.
You do.
But
you do. We all do. Well, we all did, or whatever it is. And I've actually we published the first episode and got some great feedback on it. And I've gotten some direct messages from people saying they loved this particular segment, what we call the TV voiceover of the week, which means we have a story. It's a real story. This happened. And we both go from our normal TV voice to our TV voice. We go from talking like this to talking like this in the matter of a commercial. Because this is my real voice. Norma, your real voice is?
Hello. Hi. I'm Norma. Nice to meet you.
And now, Norma's TV voice is...
A woman near Boston and her dog were rescued from a manhole last week after getting trapped in the sewer. A neighbor told reporters she was laying outside when she heard the woman's cry for help from underground. Fire crews say the dog escaped and ran into an unsecured culvert nearby. The dog's owner then followed it into the underground pipe before both became stuck. Rescue crews were able to remove the manhole cover and pull both out. The woman suffered minor injuries while the dog was mainly shaken up. Both are expected to be okay, while neighbors say they're lucky it didn't rain that day.
How did I write that story for you, by the way? Was that okay? Do I still have it?
You would survive as a producer.
A little long, but it's okay.
You would survive. It was a little long. I probably would have cut some things out, and I think I did. I cut out one little small detail that was sort of, although, I don't know, one could argue it was a big deal, but whatevs.
I like how you read it as though you were still on a time. Like you felt that 20-second clock or 25-second clock in your head, because I heard you speed through a little bit.
This was a VO to me, okay? This was not a soundbite. This was not a VOSOT. This is a VO. So VOs at most should be 40 seconds, and that's at the long, that's way long.
You lost me at 30 seconds, yeah.
Right? 20 to 30 seconds tops for a VO.
Right.
That's voiceover.
So this,
you do it.
To me, as I wrote it, it's going to give me, you're telling me what to do. It's my show, girl.
I'm telling you.
It's not really.
It's your show.
It's our show. You can roll it just as much as I do. But here we go. A woman near Boston and her dog were rescued from a manhole last week after getting trapped in the sewer. There was a neighbor told reporters that she was laying outside when she heard that woman's cry for help coming from underground. Fire crews say the dog had escaped, then ran into an unsecured culvert nearby. The dog's owner followed it into that underground pipe, then both of them got stuck 150 feet in. Rescue crews able to remove the manhole cover, pull both of them out. That woman suffered minor injuries, the dog mainly shaken up. Both are expected to be okay, while the neighbor, well, they say they're lucky it didn't rain that day.
Nice,
Ooh.
nice,
Ooh.
yes.
Ooh.
Did you like that? Did that feel good?
It felt good. I could have used a soundbite in there. I could have used a soundbite in there to break it up. And what I did do, though, is I pulled up the actual story.
Did you?
It is from Boston 25. And so we'll listen to a little bit of the story to hear how they do it in their TV voices.
A woman trapped in an underground culvert after she went to rescue her dog, and new tonight we are hearing her story.
Boston 25 News reporter Christine McCarthy tells us this wild rescue started after someone heard screams for help.
It's kind of compelling, like you think,
Confusion and disbelief as Roberta Ingham relaxes in her Nashua backyard Thursday afternoon.
I'm laying on my chaise lounge and I hear what I think is someone yelling help, but also wonder if it's an animal.
Her first instinct was right. Trapped inside this unsecured culvert was a neighbor under the street shouting for help.
She was at the manhole, and the culvert is in the back of my house, so she must have been yelling down the pipe so we could hear her, but she couldn't hear us. We called 911 and trying to explain there's a woman underground.
Nashua.
All right, so you get the gist of it. We kind of read the story to you. Any one of those sound bites would have worked fine in there. You have a face on right now.
I have a face?
You have a face on right now as you listened to the anchor delivery and the reporter delivery. Thank you to Boston 25. Don't sue us for using part of that. I think we're okay regardless. I could hear, I know exactly, she tracked that in a very non-soundproof room.
Probably a car.
Probably the car. But
our fourth package of the day.
You could hear the dog. That was the thing to me, is you could hear the dog yiping in the background.
I wanted to hear more of the dog.
There was so much more video that they probably could have used, or sound they could have used there to make it a little bit more exciting, I think.
I wanted to hear more of the dog because there was clearly some of that nat sound where the dog is like, yelping.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the woman used the word chaise.
She was very quick to point out she had a chaise lounge.
I was a chaise lounge.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't just sitting
I was in
down.
a chair. I was in my recliner. I'm not gonna pull apart their report, but I would have,
Yeah,
I could tell
they
sound just more. They sound just what you would imagine TV reporters to sound like.
Mm-hmm.
There are some reporters who, sadly, they think they have to sound that way, right? And then they totally overdo it. It's overkill, and I hate it, and that's why I can't watch the news.
Yeah, you and I are both awful to watch the news with. We've established that a while ago.
Don't bother.
But yeah, I wanted to hear more of the dog. I thought it was great. But either way, the story goes to show you that there's a completely different switch there from voices. So, but yeah, I'm going to make sure that after we do this show, I'm going to go sit on my Raymore and Flanagan couch. Mm-hmm.
Chaise.
My chaise, yeah.
In my chaise.
In my chaise lounge. Go back inside on your chaise lounge.
You know what? That's another word. Okay, words you don't ever hear. Chaise and chifforobe. Do you know what a chifforobe is?
I have no idea what a chifforobe is.
It's like a fancy armoire. Do you know what an armoire is?
I do. Is it over by the Chesterfield?
Yeah.
All right, we do want to thank our sponsor for the show, Anchor. It's the easiest way for us to bring you the podcast. They give us everything we need. It's all in one place. And most importantly, it's all free. Everything on our iPhones, on our iPads, on our computers, all the creation tools to edit, it's all included, and they distribute the show for us. Send it to Spotify, send it to Apple, send it to Google. So you can start your own podcast, get in on the game, download the Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm to get started.
No, I don't know what that means.
But
we digress.
We digress. Okay, so let's move on. I like to do something that is called the literal worst. I feel like I need like a big musical bed
Need some
behind
music.
what this is. I need something. I got to figure that out for next week. I need something for the literal worst. And to me, this is a segment to air out my grievances, just like in Festivus, where I can air out my grievances about everyday things that annoy the hell out of me. And this is the apartment complex washer and dryer. Really the dryer, because I've had this issue today. And what happens is I put the clothes from the washer into the dryer where the lint tray is.
Yeah.
There's a little spot, and it somehow is a magnet for drawstrings.
Uh-oh.
And everything I have with a drawstring gets stuck in there and twisted up and wound 9 million times. I have these brand new shorts, like I mentioned, from Under Armour, that got stuck in there. Drawstring is ruined. Now they don't fit right. And the stupid dryer, and sometimes the washer, gets in the way of that, and I can't do a damn thing about it. And that, to me, is the literal worst.
Okay. I'm going to one-up you.
Ooh.
Because it happened to me today. Okay. It wasn't a drawstring. Have you ever gone to the grocery store? You walk in. You see the row of carts. You pull one out. You put your hands on the cart. The little thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's warm.
Oh, no. No, I've never had the warm
just
cart.
put that thing back. And the handle is warm.
Oh.
And don't say, well, it's summer, Norma. Like, of course it's no. It was body warm. Somebody had just put their hands on that thing. And I'm sorry, but in this age of Corona, I am not trying to touch things that other people have touched. Relax, Norma. It's not a big deal. It's just germs. It's germs. So I felt so instantly disgusted. And I ran over to where they have like these wipes, and I wiped down the handle. I was like basically wiping the whole cart down. And then I was like scrubbing my hands with the...
You were so skeeved out. You were done.
Oh my God. Warm handle bar. Oh, hell no.
Mm-mm. And maybe it was both the hands, or they do the hands and the belly push where they push it, use their body weight. You've seen that. Everybody knows
why
what that is.
Why you got to go there, Robert? Why'd you have to go there? That's
I have
funky.
to mess with you. I have to mess with you.
Ew.
See, I mean, I hate when I get the wet cart. You know, when it's still raining outside, you get the wet cart. I hate that one. But the warm hands cart, clammy hands, you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what's going on.
That's the literal worst.
Yeah.
I like this, though. This is fun.
This is fun.
The literal worst.
Airing out the grievances. All right, so that'll be about wrap for this show as we have another week in the books here. Norma, you're going to post something that everyone should look at on your Facebook page. And when I say you have to look at it and vote on it.
Yeah, we're going to do a little poll. We're going to throw back some photos. We're talking about the early days today, Robert and I, and our beginnings in the career of television, broadcast news. So I have in my possession a photo of young Robert, the one looking for cruising for chicks and cash in his early years. So I'm going to put one of him up, and then one of me for my first couple years in television. And we're going to do a little poll. Right?
Yeah.
Who wore it better? Who wore their first year better? Robert or Norma? I have to say, Robert, you're a cutie pie.
I mean,
you're a cutie pie.
I still had a lot of hair back then. Didn't know what to do with it. I had hair and this one you're going to see the one tie I wore the hell out of in this picture. So make sure you go on Norma's Facebook, which is...
That's right, Norma Holland on Facebook. Super easy, Norma Holland.
So go on Norma's Facebook. You can find that picture. You can make sure you vote on it, and we will discuss more on it next week. You can find me at Robert Burns TV on just about everything that there is. And remember, interact with us. Talk with us. We love you, and we want to talk to you. You can leave a message, and we'll play it on the show. So if you go to our show page, you will. Norma, this week I didn't steal your read.